Secretary of State Pompeo on a 9-city tour in the Middle East, today delivering what the New York Times called, quote, a scathing and quite personal rejection of President Barack Obama's approach to the Middle East, excoriating Mr. Obama for fundamental misunderstandings about the region that underestimated the tenacity and viciousness of radical Islamism. Take a look at the strikingly different messages in 2009 and then today.
Assalamu alaikum.
It was here in this city, that another American stood before you. He told you that radical Islamist terrorism does not stem from an ideology.
Islam is not part of the problem in combating violent extremism. It is an important part of promoting peace.
He told you that 9/11 led my country to abandon its ideals, particularly in the Middle East.
The attacks of September 11, 2001, and the continued efforts of these extremists to engage in violence against civilians has led some in my country to view Islam as inevitably hostile not only to America and Western countries, but also to human rights. All this has bred more fear and more mistrust.
He told you that the United States and the Muslim world needed, quote, a new beginning, end of quote.
I've come here to Cairo to seek a new beginning between the United States and Muslims around the world.
The good news is this: the age of self-inflicted American shame is over, and so are the policies that produce so much needless suffering. Now comes the real new beginning.
All right. Joining me now, General Jack Keane, Chairman of the Institute for the Study of War and a Fox News Senior Strategic Analyst. General, good to see you tonight.
Yeah, good to see you.
Interesting comparisons there. What do you make of it?
Well, I think he clearly wanted to draw the contrast of what he suggested, that Obama's vision and his timidity in dealing with the Middle East really had some serious dire consequences that led to regional instability. For example, pulling out of Iraq prematurely got us ISIS, not assisting the new Libyan regime that deposed Gaddafi with military training, got us a failed state, not assisting the opposition forces in Syria led to one of the great human catastrophes post-World War II. So what he's positioning the United States in the Middle East now is a force for good, promoting stability, security, and prosperity. But I got to tell you, Martha, I mean, this trip was planned weeks ago. The point was to make certain that the allies in the region are pushing back on the Iranians, and that also we're organized to deal with the radical Islamic ideology, which its origin is political and religious. But this nature of this trip changed after President Trump made his withdrawal decision in Syria. One word has replaced the tour, and that's reassurance. Reassurance to all of these allies that the United States is not leaving the Middle East. Quite the contrary. We're going to stay engaged there, because they became confused as a result of that withdrawal decision. So it's fortunate and fortuitous that this visit was already planned, and the Secretary of State has this opportunity to provide that kind of reassurance.
He said the age of self-inflicted American shame is over. What did you think of that line?
Well, I thought it was a good line, and I had a lot of problems with President Obama's speech in Cairo and many other speeches that he made, because one of the pattern lines, at least for the first 2 years of his administration, was apologizing around the world for the United States behavior. When post-World War II, there's never been a country that has provided so much stability and so much security at the sacrifice of American youth in helping Europeans in the Far East, Southeast Asia. Really quite extraordinary. There's never been a country like us who's ever done something like that. We don't have to apologize for anything. Have we ever made mistakes? You betcha we've made mistakes. But for a force of good, there's no country that's provided that.
Before I let you go, what is the message to Russia when they watch this, and to Iran, who may have been relieved by the news that the president really would like to pull our troops out of Syria?
There's no doubt that Russia has a strategy to replace the United States as the out-of-region country that has the most influence in the Middle East, which is a position we have held since post-World War II. They want to take over that strategic position. They're working very hard to do it. The Iranians have already scored significant victories in the Middle East. Lebanon, Syria now, they almost own it except for eastern Syria. Iraq, they have more political influence in Iraq than we have. Yemen, they're trying to overthrow that country because they want to challenge Saudi Arabia, which is right, Yemen is right to the south of it. So they are on the march, and Russia is in there now with a political and military alliance working together against U.S. national interests and those of our allies.
General Jack Keane, always good to see you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah, good talking to you, Martha.